Our high streets, to be fair, have been battered for years. Disconnected places where you get big swathes of housing estates but no facilities. A lot of the shopping centres and the retail space that I help plan and deliver is now being redeveloped or repurposed or knocked down. You can't just take something because it's successful in one place and just drop it into another. You've got to understand your catchment and your profile and how it works.
Welcome to the People and Property Equals Progress podcast, brought to you by Lambeth Smith Hampton. Here we go beyond the bricks and mortar and take a deep dive into the fascinating stories behind the business. What makes LSH unique isn't the property market that they operate in, it's the people that drive it forward. The breadth and diversity, the imagination and the ambition of their people. Every episode, we'll sit down with an inspiring guest and they'll share their journey, their vision and their passion. So let's get started. Right, this is very exciting because this is the first doctor I've spoken to today. Steve Norris, tell me how you're associated with LSH and where the DR comes from, please.
So I'm an executive director at Lambeth Smith Hampton, and I'm also national head of the planning, regeneration infrastructure business. And I've been at Lambeth Smith Hampton now for 6.5 years. I've been.
Are those first two roles, they're not conflicting at all?
What, executive director and national head?
Yeah. No.
There's lots doing it. Yeah,
crossovers.
Yeah. Absolutely. My career's, I've been working for about 32 years, and my specialism, the area I really love doing, is town centre regeneration.
I mean, that is the buzz right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first started out, the answer to a lot of the problems for our town centres was retail, like retail-led regeneration. So you just threw a lot of retail space at centres, shopping centres, whatever it was, and it was job done. Now it's turned, and actually if you're in a career long enough, you go through these cycles whereby a lot of the shopping centres and the retail space that I help plan and deliver is now being redeveloped or repurposed or knocked down because we've got too much retail space. And I'd say now it's probably the most exciting time to be involved in town centre regeneration because the answer isn't retail now. It's still important, but it's about education, healthcare, about civic uses, community uses, coming back into our town centres to create that dynamism and that vitality that brings people in and makes places different.
It is so nice to hear that there's positivity and hope, because all we hear day in, day out is the high street is dying. What was the heyday? Let's talk about positivity first. What was the heyday for the high street? Like, which era are we talking? When was the high street vibrant? When was it the soul of the community?
Well, I think our high streets, to be fair, have been battered for years. If you go back to even the 60s and 70s, so the first big outer centre superstores were opening in the 1970s. Then you had your retail warehouses. Then you had your big regional shopping centres like your Metro centres and your Merry Hills and your Meadowhalls and your Lakesides. And then you had your designer outlets. So they were all taking market share away from our high streets. So when I started, I was doing my PhD was in urban geography, and it was around the impact of these big regional shopping centres on our town centres, and that was in the late 80s, early 1990s, when they talked then about the death of the high street. So it's not a new phenomenon.
That means my father was involved in the death of the high street.
Oh, really?
He was a charter surveyor, and he built snow domes.
Oh, did he?
Made them into commercial property. So snow domes with shops and food and places to go, places to take you away from the high street. And I never thought about that because I'm passionate about communities. I grew up without so much of a community where I grew up in Twickenham. I always wanted to be like friendly with my neighbours, to know the cafe owners, to say hi to people. And I've moved to Thames Ditton, and that is so much about the hub of that. And I absolutely love it. I love people knowing my business. It's interesting that my father's business was about what I saw was being really healthy, you know, bringing sport and commercial properties together. But that definitely would.
But I wouldn't blame him too much. He didn't do it on his own. No. And actually, I mean, some of that. I mean, a lot of that was because people were moving out. It was our towns and cities were poor. The high streets were dying. People were moving out to the suburbs. They wanted their large family homes with a garden. And of course, all of the facilities moved out to meet that. So you were creating communities outside of our centres.
Which we did need as well.
And that's still happening today. I mean, we're still working on, for example, we're working on Northstowe for Homes England, which is in Cambridge. And we are helping to deliver the biggest new town since Milton Keynes. 10,000 new homes, a new town centre. But creating a community, a connected community with a real heart and a hub to it, rather than these kind of disconnected places where you get big swathes of housing estates but no facilities. You're having to it's the American model. You have to get in your car to drive somewhere to do stuff.
No, exactly.
So why, put it all into your town centres, which are the most sustainable, the most convenient, the most accessible, available. Make them friendly, like this active travel where you can walk, or you're talking about walking around London and Soho. You can walk into those centres, you can cycle into them, and it feels safe. And it's safe for everybody.
Are we part of the problem because we want everything here and now? So I buy on Amazon all the time. I want those products delivered. I want instant gratification. But equally, I want high street, I want hub, I want community. So is that part of the decision behind changing what is in that high street?
Again, there's this mix, these ingredients that go to make successful centres and places. And you can't just take something because it's successful in one place and just drop it into another. You've got to understand your catchment and your profile and how it works. But we talked about what I've called the 4 waves of outer centre retail, and we had the designer outlets of the last wave. And then as we entered into the 2000s, we've had online. Who'd have thought, in looking back 15 years, when smartphones were really being taken up, where we'd be now, where they just dominate lives too much, in my opinion. But that digital is so convenient. Everyone does it.
Do you use it?
I do, yeah. I must admit, I'm a late comer to it, but I find things that you're trying to buy and you think, I've got to make a trip to the shops and I've got to go. You'll buy it online. But that's why
got to evolve.
The high street's got to evolve and complement. And it's interesting now. It used to be, 15 years ago, it used to be that stores needed about 250 outlets to reach their customers. This was pre-digital, pre-online. Now they need 25. They can be in all the big centres and the rest of their catchment they can just reach digitally. So it's trying to find that balance between physical and virtual. But what we've seen, and it's what's exciting for me, is you've seen the return of like the butcher, the baker, the candlestick, these independent shops where you go in and they know your name, they know the kid's name, and it's probably a little bit more expensive than a
but
big
you'll
superstore.
Invest in that. You'll put budget towards that.
Because of that. And at the end of the day, we are all social animals. We all like to meet. We all like to go out. We all like to go to the theatre or to the cinema or to big sporting events. We all like to congregate. And I think that because of what we are, our DNA, high streets and centres should be the focus for that. But it's about adapting and changing, and that's not easy because some centres are absolutely on the
I also think we've got sucked into high streets trying to breed off everything else in the high street and all becoming the same. So you look at High Street Ken, used to be retail, now it is fitness and well-being. And they're all suffering because it's all the same. So, people, new trainers come into the area and go, I should sit up there because it's obviously a hub. Well, it's not. It's massively saturated.
It is, absolutely. And it's quite interesting because you think, again, in Ealing, where I live, 2000s, the coffee shop opened and another coffee shop. And you thought, well, how many coffee shops can we support? Surely we can have 4 or 5. Now we've probably got 20, 30 shops, but they're different. Some of them are the brands and some of the independents and some of them do different. They kind of evolve, and some don't survive, but that's just natural selection. They just kind of disappear, and others thrive and come in. But I think, and also what you see is, it's really interesting. You talk about your dad and the Snow Dome. What we're seeing now is a lot of empty space. You see your big department stores like your Debenhamses and that are empty, and they're starting now to use that space to bring in leisure. So you see things like Gravity and all that coming into
skateboarding. Where was it? One that is it in between knowing where it's going to be. I think it might be Bristol Debenhams, and it's got this. They've made a urban skate park.
Amazing.
It's amazing. Like the creative use of space is incredible.
If you're a young business or you're just starting out, it's really difficult. That first year is you can make or break it. So it's the ability to go in, the meanwhile uses or pop-ups to test your products, to test your customers, and to try and succeed and flourish. So you can take physical space in the future. And it's really interesting now. Street markets and markets are becoming the big thing because of that variety that they offer. And we're seeing things like teenage markets starting to take off because it gives the young kids who are
entrepreneurs.
They're at home. They may be selling stuff online. They're whatever they might be doing. They've got products they're trying to sell. They can then go onto a physical store, test it at very little cost, make money, and some of those are starting to make waves in that area. So it's all about. So that's why I think it's really exciting now to be involved in town centres and high streets and how they've evolved, because it's a really creative.
So your doctorate on high street regeneration. When my favourite days when I was at primary school was when we used to go with a clipboard. I still have a clipboard, if you want to see that. And you used to get that kind of blank map of the high street and you used to colour in.
Yeah. Was
that the start of your dreams? Is that why you're here today?
So I did, pretty much. So I when I started work, so I finished my PhD in '92, and I started work just at Hanover Square with a business. I'm so old now; most of the businesses have either gone or they've changed their names.
Not your current roles. So
no. But I started first. I think one of my first jobs was going up to Sheffield and standing about a foot in snow with a clipboard and a Tesco bag over it and a little plan, and I was filling in vacancies in Sheffield city centre, and there were quite a lot back in the day. So yeah, that's it, living the dream.
That's it. Yeah. Gosh, that could have been me.
It could have been
if
you.
I hadn't found the mountain in Sheffield.
Absolutely, yeah.
Greece had an amazing
The snow was there at the time.
That was amazing. Yeah. You know, having all this knowledge of the high street, I'm going to put pressure on you because it'll be very interesting to hear your answer. What is your favourite place or building?
It's very difficult to being asked what's your favourite child, isn't it, that one?
Oh, is it?
It is, though, because there's so many. I've been around the world as well, and there's lots of great places that you can think of, you know, from wherever you go. There's always places and temples or buildings you think, wow, and market squares are amazing. And markets in South America that are fantastic, and the life and vibrancy there. But I guess if I was bringing it home, favourite places, I mean, I guess they resonate because I've got, you know, the family, brought up a family in West London, although not originally from London. And I think a lot of the places are things like the Natural History Museum.
Oh, incredible.
Or the Tate Modern.
Or,
interesting. You know, got kind of places where I've gone with kids at different
creating
ages.
Memories.
I mean, the amount of times we used to go to the Natural History Museum to see that dinosaur with my son.
I've slept under it. You
oh,
can
have you?
sleep under it now.
I think he's done that as well with the Scouts or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think probably my favourite, because when I started work in the 1990s, and King's Cross at the time was just a derelict wasteland. I mean, it was horrendous. Saying that, we did go clubbing there. There was
it had a purpose.
It had a venue there, but it was a place you wouldn't normally go during the day, let alone the evening. Okay. And the transformation of that from what it was in and they say regeneration takes a generation, but the transformation in the last 25 years of that has been absolutely spectacular. And the St Pancras station and a hotel, which was going to be knocked down and was saved pretty much at the last minute. And it just shows you how you can use old buildings. When we were back in the day building shopping centres, we were clearing high streets, clearing these really nice, beautiful buildings in some cases. For me, King's Cross, and again, it's I'm conscious it's London-centric, but as a benchmark for having a vision and a master plan that's flexible and actually delivering on that, and delivering something now which is so exciting. I mean, Coal Drops Yard, you've got Google in there, you've got amazing bars and restaurants, a real life about it that was just a derelict wasteland 25 years ago.
It is very, very wow every time you go. And what's nice is it's quite a lot of people's first point of contact to London.
Absolutely, yeah. What a gateway.
I'm proud of that.
Yeah, what a gateway into London, because you remember what it used to be like.
You think Harry Potter, you think all of this. Well, this is it in living action.
And if you're in London for the first time and that's your gateway in, wow.
I do enjoy the canals around there as well, because you can be walking around and see completely beautiful mirrored new builds, and then there's a little crack that's been left. You don't know why it's there, but you look through and you see an old quaint church or a house that's somehow still stand. It is incredible, amazing.
And those, I mean, I say, if you can preserve, and it doesn't come cheap, but preserving those old buildings with the new makes such a difference. You know, and I think for me, King's Cross gives us such a strong benchmark for what we're trying to do elsewhere as well.
And what about a building or place that's changed your life?
Well, again, I just go from personal experience. So
that's the LSH is all about the people behind. I know that you've done crazy, talented projects with changing properties, but this is about what it means to you.
And you mentioned about community and family. So for me, it's the buildings and places that I've grown up in that have been about that. So my family home, you know, where I grew up in, you know, that, and I was born and bred in Wolverhampton. I was there for 18 years. So that for me, family home is absolutely has shaped who I am, and the schools I went to and the people that taught me as well. My geography teacher who taught me, Jim Chugg, who was amazing. You know, he had the energy.
Did you name check your geography teacher?
I did, yeah. He's still around. Yeah.
Do you still see him?
No, I haven't seen him for a while.
Have you reached out to him?
I have, but I haven't seen him for a while.
Oh, I love that.
He was amazing. He was someone who used to be an ex-planner, which is exactly what I'm a planner now. But he had so much energy and enthusiasm for his subject, and I loved it. I think I would have loved it anyway, but I loved it even more because of his energy and enthusiasm. So my home, and then I went to Reading. So Reading, I never really felt at home in Reading, but it was a place where I made lots of friends, had a great time, and I connected with it, and it's great. It's changed so much. Again, talk about a town that's changed so much in the last 30 odd years. And then in London, I'm moving to Ealing, and Ealing we live in it's the.
Is that where your children were born?
Yeah, born and bred.
Okay.
Yeah, born and bred.
Have you taken them back to Wolverhampton?
Oh God, yeah. So I am.
Have they met your geography teacher?
No, they haven't. No, not yet. But I'm a mad Wolverhampton Wanderers fan, and I'm a season ticket holder.
Oh right, okay, they go a lot. Then.
And my son was born in Ealing, and unfortunately he had no choice. He's a Wolves fan, so we make that 2-hour trip up. And my mum and my sister still live in Wolverhampton, so we get to see see them. Then we watch the game, we watch Wolves lose, and then we have a long 2-hour drive
Yeah.
back. And he normally
Silence.
falls asleep. Well, he normally falls asleep anyway. So it's your memories of those, and it's your emotional attachment, and it's the community then as well. I'd say Ealing as well, we live in what's called a garden suburb. It's a bit like Hampstead garden suburb. And it's a really nice example, again, of planned, that's one of the early planned settlements where they have a local centre and a community centre and a sports centre. It's where Fred Perry was born and bred.
Oh, wow.
And he played tennis locally.
Yeah.
There's a little plaque outside one of the houses. So
I grew up in Twickenham, in St Margaret's, and it's a lovely, lovely area. But at the time, it's much better now because it's got a lovely little high street. But at the time, I think because I was travelling a lot because of skiing, I didn't have that. Like, I wanted people to know who I was. I wanted them. I know a lot of people try and escape all that, but I wanted that community. I wanted to know my neighbours. I wanted to have the safety in that and numbers. So moving out to Hampton Court and Thames Ditton and finding your people.
And you've got it now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think it would be really, everyone always says to me, why don't you live in the mountains? I'm like, well, because I've got my home and my people. And I feel like they can help me overcome and ride any adversity.
It's different for some people, but you know, for me, I think it's just that it's nice to be able to be part of the community, but also to have your own space as well.
What about a building or a place or a city that you'd like to transform, and why?
So I've mentioned where I'm from, so Wolverhampton.
Yeah, you mentioned it being great.
Yes.
you saw the positives.
So I'm
before.
a Wolverhamptonian. I'm kind of born and bred in Wolverhampton, and the city itself, I mean, the council have done an amazing stuff over the last 5 or 10 years, particularly the last 5 years, in terms of regeneration. They've opened if you get the chance, you must go. They've refurbished and reopened the civic halls, the Wolfram Halls, which is a kind of entertainment venue. So a lot of the bands that do the big tours go off circuit into that Wolverhampton. And my mum and dad actually met at a dance there in the 1950s, which is amazing to think. So they've invested a lot of money, I think 50 million in that, and they're revamping the centre, and investing a lot around there in terms of regeneration. I mean, it was the Black Country. It was the heart of manufacturing and steel industry, and the tyre factory as well, and the aerospace industry. And the aerospace is still there pretty much, but there's a lot of industry that has fallen away, and there are a lot of derelict and contaminated sites, and they're putting a lot of money into it. They are regenerating canal sides. You know, the canals are amazing, more canals than Venice around that area. There's a lot done, but I would love the Wolverhampton motto is "Out of darkness cometh light," and you can see that. And I'd love to be my dream, my last job, the last thing I ever put on paper would be something to do with Wolverhampton and helping. The stuff that's going around there is great, but the city, the high street itself, still needs a lot of TLC, and I'd love to get involved in that.
I mean, the fact that they're investing so much in that community hub it shows that they care. So hopefully that infiltrates and has that ripple effect.
And it's stuff as most centres do. That he had the Beattie's department store was the flagship department store in Wolverhampton, but in the Midlands really more than John Lewis and that, and that's closed down, and they've struggled to find occupants for that. And there's a lot of retail space that's vacant, but it's changing. You can see slowly it's changing, which is why, as a community, for me, the football is so important. You know, that's part of the thing. It's a relatively small city, and that kind of bonds people together as well.
It's interesting because we've also been talking today about Tottenham Hotspurs.
Yes, of course you
quite
have.
a few Spurs fans. A lot of the chat is how amazing this stadium is, but how it's not been able to flow through into Tottenham, the town.
Yes.
And how there's a big barrier of change there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That is a huge opportunity for growth.
The other issue there is, you know, and I've been to quite a lot of games at Spurs, it's the infrastructure, and it's getting there and getting out again. And there's so much. The stadium itself is amazing. I mean, it's absolutely probably the best stadium in the world because it's probably the newest and the most modern. But there's so much going on in the stadium that. And that's what they want. You want to come early, stay longer, spend more money in the stadium. So then it's trying to get, well, how do you do that with the Molineux, which is where Wolves play, which is right in the heart of the city. They've talked about, well, should we build a new stadium but move it out to the junction of the motorway? And actually the resistance is, no, you shouldn't do that, because that generates so much footfall and trade for local businesses on a Saturday or whenever the games are on, that it's absolutely fundamental. But it's a tight site and it's hard to redevelop. So. But yeah, I mean, I'm in stadiums. I mean, you look at Stratford and how they've built the legacy there, you know, and Westfield has come in, and then you've just in what was it, 2012, in the last 13 years, that is, you go past there now or go there, it's unrecognisable.
The actor said that was his, you know, the success story.
It is incredible what they've done there, because lots of stadiums, you go Australia and elsewhere, the legacy just didn't exist, and you get these stadiums that just sit in there in splendid isolation with nothing going on around them.
But it's accessible, it's livable. It wasn't just created to bring the world in to show off.
No.
It was like, actually, okay, let's think about the practicalities here and how we can use this land better.
But they had a plan. Again, they had part of what we do is when we go in and do town centre regeneration, we just don't go in and say, oh, you need to do this and this and whatever. We go in, we'll work with the stakeholders, we work with the council, we work and engage with the community and understand what their needs are. What do they want? What do they like about places? What don't they like? How can you adapt that? What can you say, from understanding that, how that centre might work, what uses might work? And you've got a vision then that you can buy into, and a 10, 15, 20-year master plan that has to be flexible to adapt because the market changes so quickly. But if you've got that, then you've got the recipe, hopefully, for success, rather than... And they've done that. You look at King's Cross, we talked about that. You look at Stratford, you look at Battersea. They've all had really good, robust visions and master plans. So
and unfortunately, there's not one mould fits everyone.
No, absolutely not.
Even those 3 sites in London are completely different in terms of how they feel. So you look at moving around the whole of the UK, and it's like, right, okay, it makes your job harder but more interesting because you just people, which is what LSH is.
And you have to start with this. With anything, you have to start with the key stakeholders, the community, and then when you're engaged with the community, the problem then is you've got to find the hard to reach. There are plenty of people, as you know, who will have their hand in their hair. But
they're not the ones you want to actually speak to.
Absolutely. So, and you've got to get into the schools because you're also planning. You're not planning high streets or towns necessarily for me and you. You're planning for our kids and their kids. What do they want? How can you make a centre, a digital centre as well, that they can engage with? So, I mean, with AI now, everything is moving exponentially. 15 years ago, smartphones were introduced. Look at them now, how they dominate our lives. Now AI is coming in, and you think, what does that mean for not just us as people and as a society, but for
I think
our
we
centres
really need to educate ourselves in how to use it positively.
Absolutely.
Because it must have some unbelievable addition to our lives.
The danger is where it starts to replace our thinking. My concern is that, hopefully not, but have we reached the peak of our intelligence?
And
because we can become lazy and rely on AI. And AI learns every day, every minute.
So I host live events, and you have a voice of God, the X Factor voice, for instance. And my friend, who I used to work with a lot, who's never on camera or on stage, but she's there doing all the comparing, sold her voice for an AI voice. And now I do it with a digital version of her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you try and catch them out. You're like, how's your dinner tonight? What are you wearing?
So she's not there. It's just her voice being AI.
It's her voice.
That's the trouble now. It's hard to know. Learn about newsreaders, or you'd see it on your phone. Is that? And at the bottom it'll say AI created. It absolutely draws you in.
I accidentally sometimes share things on Instagram that I think is so athletic, and all my followers love sports, so I share it, and then someone says
it's AI.
That's not real, and I get so disappointed myself.
But it's dangerous as well.
But I believe in people, so I believe that people could be that way.
We trust. I mean, it's dangerous. I mean, if you apply that into politics and other things, it's really dangerous. That's the fear, and we're already seeing that. Where it used to be back in the day, if someone had a voice or opinion, they'd stand on a box at Hyde Park and they maybe get 3 people listen to them. Now on social media, they can have hundreds, they can have thousands.
But what positive place does AI have in your industry?
For example, one of the issues around speeding up planning is around processing planning applications. And if you're in a local authority and you're a planner there, you've probably got a desk that is this high with applications, of which probably only that many are ones that are really substantial that you need to focus. A lot of them are just kind of extensions to houses or whatever. And the abilities for AI to go in, to search, and actually to make informed decisions about do you approve or not. And you still need that human sense check.
Endpoint,
but it will help to speed up process.
Right, I'm going to finish with one last bit, and it's at LSH, people drive the business forward. That's what I've learned a lot today, all of the amazing opportunity and talent of the people. Who is your bright spark at LSH, supports you for you to lean on or be your best, or pushes you out your comfort zone?
I joined LSH 6 years ago, and I have been around the block and been to some really big global real estate advisors and to smaller. I also was in a smaller practice that we sold on. So I've seen both ends of the spectrum. I think LSH is just, for me, and again I've got 30 odd years, so I've got a bit of background. It's not just my first job. And of all the places I've worked, I've made some really good friends, and I've worked in some nice places. I would say the people and the culture at LSH is really nice. There's no big egos there. Everybody's working and collaborating together. The team I've got, which is 150 strong, London and the regions, is a very diverse team. Lots of different knowledge and services that we do, from planning and development consultancy through to land assembly and urban design and my bit around town centres. We all collaborate, and what we're all trying to do is to work together to identify opportunities where we can be stronger together. Where can we come together and advise clients and provide that real value to clients? And I think that's one of the unique things about certainly the Planning, Regeneration plus Infrastructure team that I run within LSH. And in terms of individuals, I mean, they're all, I would say this, wouldn't I? But again, it's like picking your favourite child. You keep asking me these questions. There are some amazing people, really amazing people. The business which I head up, I've got Richard O'Connell, who's my ops director, and Richard is absolutely amazing. We almost like have kind of counselling together when we're trying to get through things. He's
two peas in a pod.
Yeah, absolutely, and he takes on a lot of that kind of the compliance and HR stuff, and he's really good. And we actually were brought together, and we get on famously. I mean, it's nice. Again, you talk about you want to wake up and enjoy your job. He makes the job.
That's great.
On bad days when you wake up and think, oh God, I've got to do this today.
Yeah.
You can have a chat with Richard, and hopefully vice versa, he gets you through it. My PA Sarah Turner, who is absolutely amazing. She looks after me, my diary. She tells me where I need to be, like today. She tells me in advance that I need to be leaving now. She's just brilliant, and she's been, since I joined, she's been with me. And she's like, if Richard's my right arm, then she's my left arm. She is absolutely
She frees
amazing.
you up to be your best.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's, and hopefully what we do as leaders of the business is give the opportunities and the space for others and who lead their teams, and then with the team is to do their thing as well and perform. When I was approached in my previous job, I didn't know a lot about Lambeth Smith Hampton, and the more I got to know it and understand it, and the growth that they were setting out even 6 years ago, was really attractive to me at my stage of the career as well. And now
bringing Scotland.
Well, Ryden had come in. So, I mean, for us, it's great. It's a very difficult market unless you speak the language to get into, but now we've got that. So there's, again, on the back of that, there's other services that we can bring and offer them, and they're nice. SHW as well, starting to work well with them as well. And it's a really exciting, and the growth over the next 3 years, to double sales and increase profitability sits front and centre of what we're trying to do as well. I mean, our team's grown from 50 in 2019 to 150 now. Yeah, and it's through kind of organic growth and teams coming together, but it's through acquisitions as well. And there's no reason why we can't do the same growth over the next 3 years.
Well, you might have to delay your passion to change Wolverhampton's
maybe
town
not.
centre for a little bit.
And maybe my football team might still be in the Premier League, but I think that might be short.
That's your long-term project. You've got enough to do with your 150 team down here.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, thank you so much. It's been fascinating to chat with you. Yeah,
nice
really.
To meet you as well,
it's amazing to think that I had a tiny pathway in what you're doing now, and every single pupil in the UK has done that.
Yeah.
I really hope that they still do that today, that they go into their local high street and learn, about what shops are there, why they're there. And it'd be very interesting to see how that's evolved since I was young.
Absolutely.
Because it is always forever changing, and we have to. We can't be complacent with our high streets. We've got to love them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and use them as well.
Yeah, love and use them.
And human geography is still the best subject in the world.
Well, mountain geography is pretty good as well.